Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I conduct work life video interviews with career professionals and creators that become an all intuitive conversation. Aloha, and welcome to All Intuitive Conversation. So, this is a different day other than our normal Tuesdays because the next guest, Brooke, wanted to connect on a different day, and here we are. So I actually know Brooke. We have done some networking events and meetings, masterminds together. So this all intuitive conversation is one to where it's a little different because I know a little bit about her, but as I said, I don't know everything about Brooke. So let me welcome to the stage Brooke Haynes.
Hey,
Aloha!
hi, Aloha. How are you doing? I'm so
I am
glad to
doing well.
good. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having sharing space with me and having me on.
Yes. So like I was telling the audience is that you and I are affiliated because usually my guests are individuals I have never had a conversation with, I never met. So I'm getting to know them for the very first time. But you and I have known each other now for probably what over no over a year.
Yeah, like three.
That,
Because it was
gee, has it been?
before COVID. Everything's either post COVID or after COVID. Before COVID, it was before COVID.
Yes, because what is somebody? What was another guess? It was something about BC before COVID.
Yeah, that's
I was
funny.
like, oh, I was like, okay, so yeah.
There
So
was a COVID. It
y-
was
there was a time, there was such a thing for sure. So I love this experience because when I created the show, it literally is a conversation. There's something the all experience of connecting with people that you never met before. There may be fear, trepidations, or wonder of okay, getting to know this person. So I want to start with what inspired you, encouraged you to want to have this all intuitive conversation with me.
That's that's a great question. Well, because I do know you a little bit and I know your work a little bit. I've had doses of your work. I think it's really, really fun. And
Mhm.
you bring a different light to the table. And when I booked it, I can't remember. I think I just wanted some more time with you. And then I was like, I don't really have a question. I'm just going to book it and I'm going to have some fun. And then I went through some things and then I'm like, "Oh, I know what my question is, but I'm on the other side of it." So it's really like a fun, inspirational kind of question, not a problem kind of question.
Yeah. Okay. So then tell do tell more about that. What was it? What was the situation?
Well, recently I went through what I call contrast, which means just not feeling very good, having some thoughts that weren't serving me.
Mhm.
I was questioning every single thing I did.
Mhm.
And that really took me down a spiral, a rabbit hole. Okay.
Okay.
And coming out of the rabbit hole, I like to say, I was pictured myself. I told someone is like pulling myself out of the deep end of the pool on a ladder. And it was like
Mhm.
everything I could just to get up on the first rung. And then each rung becomes it's a little bit simpler. And as I moved up, well, when I did move up, and then I got sick, real sick from it, like it was just a whole thing, right? So I
Mhm.
did move up, and as I moved up, some things started cleaning up around me. Like I had the first thing that happened was a conversation with my father about some religious stuff that I have been trying to avoid for a really long time, and it came out and it cleaned up a little bit, and that was super cool. A turnaround, and I have this huge epiphany, like this is where I'm going with it. Actually,
Mhm.
before I go down that road, then a relationship got cleaned up. Um, it was a relationship I had never had. a relationship go sour in business before, ever, except this one person. And it was the pattern of my male partnerships that was there. Okay. And I knew that the whole time. I was like, I kept trying to make it work. So I was like, this is a pattern. I've never seen it in a woman and I've never seen it in business, but this is my pattern with my male partners, you know? Anyway, and so went separate ways. Well, out of the blue, she contacts me. We've done that a few times, but it just wasn't ready. Right. And it felt right. It felt like normal. It felt cool. And I was like, ooh, between the thing that happened with my dad and that happened with this girl, both were coming from a place of not stepping out. They were both problems were from shying down a little bit and not being truly authentic with who I am in these situations. I would shrink down and not speak instead of the opposite of who I usually am. And they both got cleaned up. And I got a download that was so big that I had physical response to. And the download was Monday night, this past Monday, so like a week and 5 days ago. I get a download that started from my question: if I were to pull together the best team to build a curriculum for my son, what would that look like? And before I knew it, I had built him the peak team. I had added more kids. And then I had started a few more other things. And I had created an entire school program that I have been talking about since I was 17 years old. And it was the first time ever I created from the inside out, because I've always seen it from the outside, the bigger picture. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pacing and I'm like, I'm going to build a school. It's time to build the school. The school is here. The school is here. And I'm having all these visions about the school, about that everything is in place. The people are in place. The money's in place. The businesses are in place. I just got to go click, 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 pulling them all together. And then I had a physical response where my body was physically shaking, not chills. And not just like this, but like electrical impulses were making my leg move on its own on the couch. And when I could visualize it coming through, it would, but I very much blocked through my core soul, which I had been saying. But and then if I had a thought that didn't serve me, the body would go kind of crazy weird, like, how am I, or is anything that didn't serve me. But there wasn't many of those. But for 3 hours, this went on and on and on. So the next morning, I'm like, okay, I think that was just to refocus to remember my purpose, to remember my focus, because I haven't talked about it in a while, and to know where I'm going, because I had been feeling like, remind me again while I'm doing all this, that kind of thing. And all of this came to me. So that's, in a nutshell, everything. And then my question is like, okay, so I know that I don't have to know the house. I know that and maybe I'm just supposed to have had this big thing, like, okay, it's here, refocus. But but I also don't want to like ignore what just happened Monday night.
Yes.
Right. So like any inspiration or words or thoughts or anything about going and moving along on my path towards that direction would be much appreciated.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So let's go with what came out. So the very first one that came out was laughter.
Interesting.
And this represented you, because in the very beginning, if you'll go back and you watch the videos, you immediately are laughing. Like there's this laughter energy around Brooke. The next thing that was connected was the people that are surrounding her and how you like feel about that in those individuals. Which then the next thing that came up was air. And what this symbolizes was you cleaning the air and having those conversations with your dad and with the woman that you had the situation with, that you were like, it just didn't really work out kind of thing. But those things were to happen in order for you to have this epiphany about your school, right?
Mhm.
So then the next one that came up was talking about, because I know you're into the law of attraction, and I was like, okay, what's the connection between these? And it was the relationships. And it says our source is one of love, not condemnation. When you pay attention to the way you feel and deliberately choose more thoughts that feel good while you think them, you will begin to recognize the nature of your broader non physical desires. So it's like once you kind of, like you said, know who you are, clear the air, and you think about what has not physically manifested in your life at this point, like clearing that air. That's when it came back to you about, oh, it's this whole school journey, right? Because it says the majority of negative emotions that you feel are not because the subject of your thought is wrong, but instead because you are condemning something that your source does not condemn. Your source is one of love, not one of condemnation,
Mm. Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So then it becomes okay. So now, as you were saying, like, now what do you do? And so then the next one that kind of came up, I was like, okay, well, this kind of seems out of order, which it was in the sense of having your patience. So she's got all this business stuff going on there, but just being patient and knowing what to do next. So it becomes the question asking you is describe your patience. Do you have patience? What does patience look like for you?
Did you want me to answer that?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have um less patience than I've ever had before, but not in a way that I feel like I'm in a hurry, but in a way that I don't a tolerance. That's what I'm confusing with patience. I have less tolerance than I had before when I'm doing something that's not serving of me or that's not in my standards or like I don't have the tolerance there, but patience is different. Um I feel like I have good patience. But I feel like that card came when I first saw it was because it's like, okay, so I had all this download. Now what? And it's like, patience, young grasshopper. Now you just
Mm-hmm.
sit I felt like it was to refocus, to recenter my mission and where I'm going because I had kind of started letting it go a little bit. I mean, I've held on this thing for 17 years. I mean, since I was 17 years old. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been so many times it almost happened and then it didn't. And it
Mm-hmm.
still seems very big, and the older I get, the more it's like, I see the details, and I'm like, "Oh, that's real big, it's real big." It's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think I've let it go a little bit. I'm gonna and so since I let it go, I think it was really just a way for me to come back to the focus of it.
Okay. So tell me about the school.
Um, you mean like why like the
The
school?
vision. The vision you have for it. Mm-hmm.
So the vision is, in a perfect world, it'd be 250 acres, but let's just say 100. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be five different owners of land, and they'll have private space and their own thing. There's going to be a program for kids that will in the foster system, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll have to. It's not going to be. It's going to be one that they have to earn, and it's going to be very hard for them to get into it. But if they get into it, they get to get into it. And it's going to teach and support two things. One, like the skills that they need, depending on their age, to grow up and go out on their own. That
Mm.
sometimes is forgotten to be taught. And then also become a real job center for those who are 16 and above who have working skills as they go out on their own. There's also going to be, so it's going to have a farm. The farm's going to be a working farm. It's going to
Mm.
have a center. It's going to have the gardens, a center. It's going to have horses and for therapeutic purposes and job purposes. And then
Oh.
it's going to also have a really, really hot, high end pool area that's going to look like a quarry. It's going to have and it's going to turn into more of a retreatish kind of place too in some areas. So
Mm-hmm.
only they can be a part of the retreat, but people who need retreat centers to host their retreats can also come there to host the retreats. And it's
Okay.
not just for foster kids, it's for kids who of all sorts. It's not just for foster. I used to want it to be for foster kids only, but no, I see it clearly that they will just be a part and a piece of it.
Okay. All right. So it's a big, like you said, it's a big vision. So you have that. So what was sitting here is that we're sharing because it was about the chakra, because you mentioned about the blockage that
Yeah.
you have, right? So what came up was the sixth chakra. And so I'm going to read this to you and see what aligns and resonates, because I have some insight for you. It says sixth chakra, the third eye chakra, wisdom and discernment. I am open to understanding the spiritual truths behind the situation occurring in my life now. I offer my wisdom to assist others along their path.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly what I
I
did.
Mhm. I trust in a higher source to guide me and to help others who ask for my guidance. I practice discernment and listen deeply within for the truth. I choose to respond to rather than just reacting to situations, acting with clarity, courage, and conviction. So these are all, well, before I even say, what resonated with you?
Um, support the support of others, being the support of others. Um, and when at the end where it said to choose to say something with conviction and act with a conviction, I think that I haven't been doing that as much as I used to, because I spent the first like 20 years doing that. And I think so I started this business about 10 years ago that was delivering farm foods to people's doors.
Mhm.
And it's ironic because I talked to that farmer right before this call. Anyway,
Of course
and
you
I
did.
was like, and I was like, and so I would take these farm foods and take them to people's doors. But it came to a point where either I needed to go bigger or stay burned out, or that's it, because I was at the where I was maxed, everything was maxed and the money was like
Mhm.
barely covering. At that time, this big company in town who did the same thing I did was going under. They offered it to me, and I said no because they were involved in like government contracts and stuff, and I didn't want that. But
Mhm.
the reason I built that business was because I thought someone would tell me, "Holy cow! If you have $250,000 of revenue from farm foods going out every month, I know a perfect farm for you."
Mhm.
Like and then I had a wise woman say, if your goal is to be working with these kids on the farm, why are you delivering food? But
Mhm.
everything I've ever done has been like the roundabout way. I'm doing this to do that. I'm doing this so it can fund that. I'm doing that. And it's never been, I mean, I fostered children, but then that's what made me really get clear on the program. I was like,
Mhm.
that's going to change. Um, but I've never, and so I think since my son's been born, it's been less and less. I keep talking about the farm. I moved here to move to a farm, but
Mhm.
program has been less and less talked about. I've started more and more wondering if it was ever going to happen, really. Where before there was no question. I was either going to make it happen or I was going to die. I was going to die trying to make it happen.
Mhm.
And then now it's just like in the last couple of years have just been like, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see.
So the clarity, do you want it to happen or not?
I think I have more split energy, what I call split energy right now, than I ever did, because I never had a split energy. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
well, do I want to be running something so big at 65? Do I want to have all that responsibility? you know, do I really want to be out in the middle of nowhere? Because I really miss my smoothie king.
Mhm. So
So
who
I have that pop up
Yeah.
now.
So who is Brooke if she no longer has that goal or the vision? If you decide, no, I don't want to do that. Who is Brooke?
Um, I want to distill the land. I just don't want all the work on it. And I want to enjoy the land for myself. Like, I just want to go swimming in my own pool and have girlfriends over and swim with me. And I just want to, if people want to use it as a retreat, they can, whatever, it's up to them. It just becomes much simpler, but it's still land. Yeah.
It's girlfriends. It's
Hmm.
friends. You
Yeah.
remember I said in the beginning the laughter was you, the symbolic of that. So what if that's what the land is and that's all you use it for? Okay.
That'd be okay. And it's like, because we saw a little piece of land recently. It was much smaller, like 7 acres. And I was like, well, we could just start. Why not start? If it's close to the city, we could do both. We could be right here. And we could go use that land. We can go ahead and the first thing we could do is put a pool on it. And then we could just go there and swim. And we could go there and do four-wheeling. And then we could build on. And then we could just keep building. And then the house could be last. It's like- and I
So
was
you
like, I was
have, yeah, so you have the vision, you have the what if. So going back to the very first statement, it said, I am open to understanding the spiritual truth behind the situations occurring in my life right now.
Well, also, I don't believe anymore as much as helping. I don't feel like there's a broken something that needs to be fixed. And I used to always feel like I was here to change things. And I realize now there's nothing to change. There's just things that I can do to be creative. So if I wanted to spend my time and effort into being creative, how do I want that to look? And it doesn't have to be big and expansive. And I don't have to go down being the woman who changed the the trajectory of all the foster kids.
Right. And that's why I was connected back to the who is Brooke if she's no longer telling herself that story. That's what my
It's nurturing relationships of where I am, nurturing what I already have, and having fun with it.
uh yeah. Because yeah, like I said, I offer my wisdom to assist others along their path. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the foster kids or the children. Like I said, the retreat and helping the women to be able to connect. Maybe it's women who are now adults that were in the foster care system at some point in their time.
Hmm.
So there's this assumption that we always just have to help the kid part of it. But what happens when those kids become adults and they're still dealing with their interaction and engagement into that system, like being connecting with that? So what if that's what that retreat is?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it because I believe that 100%. Like, I think that's the target that I'd love. It's that 18 to 25 to learn all the way up, you know. And it's interesting because, even my partner said recently, he's like, well, we could just do like a respite program and just do programs that are like weekend programs to start off with. And that way we're not committing. And I just thought that was brilliant. And it was really super sexy that a man came up with that one.
Yes, because we get these messages and insight from individuals, right? When it talks about paying attention to the conversations that you are having and what resonates with you, like, oh, that's brilliant. So then it becomes what would hang you up from making that step. Because you've said several times, like, oh, all I have to do is we can go to these 7 acres and do this, or we can go to this program and do this, and do this program can do that.
There's a little bit about me that feels like if I give up this dream, that I'm giving up a big who I am. Like, because it's been a part of who I am for so many years. I know it's not logically true, but it's emotionally still there. Like, I just got emotional.
Okay. But you're always going to be Brooke. And like I said, going back to the laughter as you kind of are releasing that tension, that's always going to be a part of your who you are, your story. But you got to know who you are, where you want to be. You don't have to commit yourself to the 17-year-old Brooke that had this vision, desire of like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then you're like, I cannot change my mind because I said I was going to do this. And it's like that's where we go with the flow. Like you're the queen of flow and the manifestation, what I know about you and what things can happen. Right. So it's like you're not gonna get lost And that's what I think some of your work is going to be. Um, so you got, I was like, okay, what do I need to, monkey,
Okay.
ingenuity. And it literally says the situation calls for adaptability and innovation. Like adapt to what, as they're going back to this one, your current situation is now, right? So I'm going to read what the monkey says for you because that's evidently a message for you. Ingenuity. So it comes out, you have this creative idea, what you want to do, and how you serve. It says, no matter what's happening right now, you got to be able to first adjust to the circumstances at hand, then generate creative solution or ideas and act on them.
Hmm.
It's literally time for you to act and do. The situation will require you to get your hands on it. Take a good look at it. Use your intelligence coupled with your gut sense to evaluate it, then choose a course of action. So when we're talking about this patience, that can even be the same thing. Like you're looking at all the different documents, you're going to evaluate like, what do I have going on?
Hmm.
Don't get rigid about your choice. And this is what I was just talking about. Like, I have to make it this farm for the kids and this, and this. Like, go with the flow. What's coming up for you, right? Because you can always change it from that. Um, Don't get rigid about your choice. However, as once you make your move, new factors will come into play and you may have to adjust your course again, sometimes very rapidly. Count on it. It's kind of like swinging from tree to tree. You have to be very quick in anticipating which branch to grab hold of. Don't get discouraged if one direction doesn't pan out. Okay. Just be willing to shift and it will work out. From time to time, use that keen mind of yours to stop and assess what's happening. It, right here, pay attention to the way you feel and deliberately choose more thoughts and feelings than why you think of them. You'll be recognized the nature of the broad non-physical desires. Like connecting back to that. From time to time, use that keen mind of yours to stop and assess what's happening, then continue on, perhaps with a slight change in course based on new information. Once you stop and look back, you'll see that every move was timely and purposeful. You have an amazing ability to move through life in a fluid, didn't I just tell you that you go, that you
Yep.
flow? You have an amazing ability to move through life in a fluid and poetic fashion, whether or not you're aware of it. Just don't get stuck on old habits, old routines, old thinking. I have to have this. This retreat has to look like this, right?
Hmm.
Trust that in the end, you can do no wrong. And then additional means talk about dexterity, cleverness, inquisitiveness, and innovation.
Cool. It made me
So,
think that when I had the part when I could see everything, I was like, "Oh my gosh, everything's already here. Everything's already here. Everything's already here. It's right here." It made me think, "Yeah, it's already there. I don't have to go recreate all this. I can be creative and innovative of how they all work together." The school already
exactly.
has 30 kids. The kid, I mean, the farm already has someone who wants to run it, and we just got to decide to do one or the other with it. One of my businesses, Consergo, really wants to be a part of funding it. I mean, like everything is a big, a big piece of this. It's already in place and working.
Okay.
So the innovation comes from how to pull it together or not. Maybe it's just like you've already developed it. You're surrounded yourself already with all of this. And now we
Mm-hmm.
get to go to the beach instead of be stuck on a farm.
Laughter. Yes.
They don't get to go often off the farm, you know? It's lots to
Uh
do.
huh. Uh huh. So, what is the next step that Brooke can do to live smart?
That's the question of the day. Follow my intuition and just be patient.
Hmm.
Is that what that was?
And yeah, patience. I mean,
Patient.
yeah, the patience and the situation calls for adaptability and innovation. I encourage you and be able to think like, okay, I'm here at this moment. What do I need to do in order to swing from this tree to the next tree?
Hmm.
Right. And
Yes.
yeah. So then the final kind of insight is to trust in a higher source to guide me and help others who ask for my guidance. So who can help you taking that next step?
Myself. I mean, just intuitively, just listening to myself, being better. I can help myself by being deeper connected, more in alignment.
Okay. When's the last time you meditated?
Yesterday morning.
Okay. Did you meditate on this?
No,
Okay.
I
That's
did
the
meditate
guidance.
on pulling energy through my body because I need some of that.
Yes. Okay. So next, or assuming meditations you can think about is thinking about this particular situation and then trusting your higher self and the guidance that you're going to receive. So now, like going back to this whole clearing the air. Uh, okay. So that's the final tie-in that they came with is you cleared the air with your dad, you cleared the air like with the other person. Those were examples. Now you need to clear the air with yourself.
Mm, okay. Let it be okay if it doesn't really even happen.
Mhm.
I'm okay with that.
So that may be anticipating having that conversation with yourself, with the Brooke that said, I have to, make this look like this versus the Brooke that is today. And having that conversation and clearing the air, releasing like, hey, whatever that looks like, I respect this vision or whatever they have, but the Brooke today is swinging now to this new tree that I want to have planted and rooted. So, um, yeah, that's the final guidance that kind of came through really clear is well clear is clear the air with yourself next.
I could see how there's still cleanup there. That'd be there. Yep, yep. Okay. I could do it though. Letting go is a whole lot easier than hanging on.
Yes, but like with the monkey and with the tree, right? Because like you were describing it with the aim, you want to have fun, and the part of having fun and swinging is there is this moment when you swing, you're holding on to one, but then you gotta let go of the other one
Yeah.
to grab onto the
The
next
best
one.
moment.
That's the best moment where you're kind of like in, and you grab onto the next one. Whereas if you're holding on to just one and you're just struggling or you're just doing both, is that as much fun as it is? And like you said, you are built for flow, and flow is swing next into the next into the next. So gotta swing, bro. Gotta swing.
All right, I'm gonna have to swing with this because this is not the direction I thought it was gonna go in. So that's all. So I swing. I've been swinging. I'm on. I'm ready. I'm rolling. I'm swinging.
Well, that's the one thing about the odds of the conversations, as we say, having no pretense of or expectation of what it is. It literally just comes into what the message and that, the guides come in and giving you what you're ready for in this moment. Like, okay, did you do it? And it's even insight because the fact that we've had conversations before, that you're ready for this. And it's an example as well, which, the awe that you coming up here live and being able to get this feedback live
Right.
is what we kind of call like real talk
Yes.
in a sense. So I'm grateful that you connected with me today, and thank you for
Yes.
those that have joined and may be encouraged as well by Brooke's story to live smart and ascend to new levels of success. And so
Thank you so much.
until we meet again.
Thank you.